The EXP lane is one of the most misplayed roles in Mobile Legends, and it seems that plenty of people agree with this statement. In this video, I will be covering everything that is necessary for even a beginner to become an effective EXP laner, including what you should be doing during different stages of the game, and important tips that will elevate your gameplay. So, what is an EXP laner, and what makes a good one? The definition of an EXP laner is quite simple. It's the player that goes to and mainly farms from the EXP lane during the first 5 minutes of the game. Cannon minions in the EXP lane provide 35% extra EXP during the first 5 minutes. This allows the EXP laner to reach level 4 by the 4th minion wave, which is just in time for the first turtle of the game. Now, there are a couple of different ways of playing the EXP lane, which will largely vary depending on the category of hero you're playing. Damage-type XP laners like Argus, Freya, or Badang will build mostly damage items, making them capable of winning fights solo, and they will mainly focus on split-pushing lanes. However, their main weakness is that most of them are pretty squishy and are less useful in large team fights. These types of XP laners are quite common in solo queue and are quite effective in lower ranks because of their carry potential. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have tank-type EXP laners like Akai, Baxia, and Beleric. These types of heroes are less common, but can be very effective when used in the right team composition. These types of XP laners are mainly focused on team fighting because of the massive utility they are able to offer during team fights. For example, Akai's ultimate can be used to crowd control multiple enemies, while Baxia is able to massively reduce enemy regeneration effects just through his passive. But the main weakness of the tank-type XP laners is that they typically have poor wave clear tools, which can lead to slower rotations. Their lack of damage and regen abilities also tend to offer little threat in split pushing and solo fighting potential. Hybrid-type EXP laners like Yuizhong, Terizla, and Thamuz offer a mix of offense and defense, which makes them useful in team fights and also capable of taking solo fights when necessary. Basically, they can do the job of both the damage and tank-type EXP laners, although they typically don't do either job as well. Hybrid-type EXP laners are more common as you rise in ranks, as players start to place more emphasis on objectives and team play, and wave management becomes even more important. Although I have listed 3 clear categories, many heroes can blur the lines between them. Heroes such as Joy or Benedetta can have a full damage build, but still be tanky or slippery enough to perform as a hybrid type. In my opinion, all 3 types can be effective in the right team composition and strategy, so it will really depend on the specific game you're in. However, it must be said that hybrid-type EXP laners are usually preferred in higher-ranked games due to their versatility in both team fighting and ability to go solo when necessary. For that reason, I will be mainly focusing this guide and be referring to EXP laner in the context of using a hybrid-type EXP laner, as I believe that would be helpful to the most number of players. Now, as an EXP laner, you have several responsibilities during a game, which varies during different points of a game, and with your team's lineup. For example, suppose your team does not have a frontline hero. You may be required to step up and be your team's bravest player by face-checking bushes for them during the later stages of the game. I will be detailing more of what you need to do in a couple of seconds, but first, here are some existing meta EXP laners as of the time of recording, and some heroes that I would recommend to beginners who are just starting to learn the EXP lane. If you want to keep up to date with the meta, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as I am planning to cover meta updates in future. The laning phase is the first 5 minutes of a game. From the start, you have 3 options on what to do. But before I tell you about these options, I have to first tell you about an advanced tactic that experienced EXP laners commonly use, known as lane cutting. Lane cutting is a risky wave management tactic that is mostly used by EXP laners so they can free up time to do other things, such as invading the enemy jungle or rotate to help in team fights. The idea is very simple. The EXP laner intercepts and clears the enemy minion wave much earlier than before it is supposed to clash with his own minions. Since he clears it before the enemy does, the enemy laner is thus forced to remain in lane or risk missing out on valuable farm. Meanwhile, the EXP laner will be able to rotate to other parts of the map to affect the game. Lane cutting is typically done at 3 locations. A low cut is when you cut in between the Tier 1 and 2 towers, while a high cut is when you cut in between the Tier 2 and Inhibitor tower. A German or super cut is done within the enemy base, which is extremely risky, but you can cut both the mid and EXP lane minion waves with this. Most EXP laners will typically not do the super cut because of how risky it is for them to do it. To time your lane cut effectively, you should rely on 2 indicators. The first is simply to watch where your own minion wave is. It is almost a direct mirror of where the enemy minion wave position is in relation to it, as you can see from here. They both pass their respective towers at around the same time, so you can use it to estimate the wave position. The second is to use the game timer. Minion waves spawn every 11th and 41st second of every minute, so you can use that to estimate when to proceed for a lane cut. Now that we've got that out of the way, let me tell you about the 3 options you have at the start of the game. The first option is to simply proceed to your lane and wait for lane minions to clash so you can start farming. If you're doing this, I will recommend waiting in these bushes first, and then follow behind your minions as they go past you. The reason is because this will prevent or at least delay an early low cut from the enemy laner. You can sometimes even kill them if they insist on cutting with a weaker hero. I recommend this first option if you're playing a weak laner, or if you're unsure about your hero strength against the enemy. The second option is to perform a low cut yourself. You should start moving as soon as the game begins and path towards either of these bushes. You can intercept the wave when it arrives at your position. This should only be done if you know what you're doing, since it's a high-risk move. Knowing if your hero wins in a level 1 fight against the enemy laner determines the success rate of this move. Also, it's best to not do this if the hero you're using has poor level 1 wave clear, as you will be stuck in a risky area for a long period if you clear the wave too slowly. It's also quite a common tactic now for mid laners to start together with the EXP laner, so be ready for that, as they can easily kill you 2v1 if you're not ready. Junglers also like to start at the EXP side buff, which means it can also easily escalate into a 3v1. The third option will largely depend on the teams and lineups. If your team is an early game invade heavy lineup and they signal for an invade, you can join them to help secure a successful invade. On the other hand, if the enemy has an invade heavy lineup, you can be there to assist your jungler if he starts with the buff on your side of the map. I like to stay around the buff area if there's an enemy Franco so we can gank and potentially kill him off, since Francos love to hook early buffs away from junglers. However, if nothing happens when the minion waves are about to clash, you should return to your lane quickly so you don't miss it. Once you're in the lane, try to last hit every minion if possible, as this gives you extra EXP and gold than not last hitting. EXP laners tend to clash a lot in lane as most of them are close range fighters and need to be closer to the minion wave if they want to last hit. Most of these clashes tend not to be all in, and are merely just a trade of HP with the opposing laner. This is why heroes with sustain are generally preferred in the EXP lane, as they are able to heal themselves up after multiple clashes. Heroes like Yuijong and Terizla have high sustain and damage, even from level 1, which gives them an advantage over many EXP laners during the laning phase. If you're playing such a hero, don't be afraid to play more aggressively and trade HP. If the enemy is low enough, you can even zone them off and deny their farm by blocking the path to your minions. If the enemy laner is greedy enough to try and get the minions, you can punish him by smacking him even more and threatening or even securing a kill. Knowing which hero is the stronger laner comes with experience in playing the role more. If you're still new to the EXP lane, generally playing safely and ensuring you get the farm from the minions is enough in the laning phase. An advanced concept known as lane freezing can also be applied to further manage the minion waves. If you haven't seen it yet, you can check out my guide to gold lane to learn more about lane freezing. I have placed the link with a timestamp in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more about this. If you clear your lanes fast enough, you can choose to rotate to other areas of the map to help your team, especially if they're close to you. If they're not close to you, you can check the jungle area in your lane to give vision on the jungler or any other enemies in the area, which can help your team make better decisions. At the 2 minutes mark of the game, the first turtle of the game will spawn. As mentioned earlier, the first turtle will always spawn on the EXP side of the map, so the EXP laner is guaranteed to play a major role in this fight. You should be still level 3 at the 2 minute mark, and a minion wave will arrive at 2:02. You should fast clear this wave and secure your level 4 as quick as possible so you can participate in the turtle fight. Once you're level 4, what you do next will largely depend on the situation around the turtle pit. If your jungler is not ready for the turtle or is signaling to retreat, you and your team should not even try to contest it until he's ready. If he's ready, try to secure vision and zone for your team by being in the area. If there are no enemies around, you can check key bushes for hidden enemies around the turtle pit, which I have highlighted here in red. Unless you have clear vision of all the enemies and are sure they are not contesting, there's no need for you to hit the turtle with your jungler. If the enemy tries to contest, your main aim will be zoning the enemy jungler and making it hard for him to approach and contest the turtle. If you have a CC skill, try to save it for when the turtle is low HP, so you can use it to stop the enemy jungler from casting his retry spell on the turtle. But if you think it can secure a kill on the jungler, or at least force him to retreat, you can just go ahead and use your skills for that. Also, I know this largely depends on the jungler, but if it's just you and the jungler versus 3 or 4 enemies, but your jungler still insists on doing the turtle, do not overcommit yourself and die for it. While the turtle is a nice bonus in farm for your team, In a situation where you're outnumbered, it's more likely the enemy will secure the turtle anyways, even if you died for it. So do gauge the situation before you commit yourself. Once the first turtle is cleared, you should go back to laning. Take note that the second turtle spawns 2 minutes after the first turtle is cleared, so there'll be 2 minutes of laning before the next major objective spawn. You should always keep an eye on the map and make attempts to lane cut if you can. This is so you are able to rotate to help your team with any fights or invades at other areas of the map as much as possible. Most experienced EXP laners tend not to stay in their lane much since most EXP lane heroes are already strong right from the early game and can contribute a lot to any team fights. So if you really want to dominate as an EXP laner, make sure to learn how to lane cut effectively. To lane cut effectively, there are 3 things you should be mindful of to determine the risk level. Firstly, your hero should at least be able to survive a 1v1 against the enemy laner. You should not try to lane cut if you're low HP. The weaker your hero is against the other in a 1v1, the higher the risk level. Secondly, you should always observe the map and ensure it's relatively safe to do so. If you can see most of the enemies on the other side of the map, it will be a safe time to cut the lanes. More enemies close to you or missing enemies means a higher risk level. Thirdly, don't lane cut if your hero has really poor wave clear. You will be stuck behind enemy lines for too long, which means you're literally inviting a gank on you. The longer you're stuck trying to clear, the higher the risk becomes. If the risk level is not high, you should definitely cut the lane. You should only do a high cut if the risk level is very low. Otherwise, a low cut is more than sufficient. Once you have successfully cut the lane, just go to anywhere on the map that you are able to help out. If your jungle is invading, go help him with that. If enemies and your team are grouping up in mid, go there and see if a fight breaks out. Or you can even start one if you find an opening. If nothing is really happening, you can check and give vision in the enemy jungle area to give information to your team. You can sometimes even steal some of the enemy jungle camps if you have time. Otherwise, you can just prepare for the next lane cut. However, if you're unsure about lane cutting, then just concern yourself with keeping your tower healthy. If you're approached by 3 or more enemies trying to push your tower, you should not risk dying in trying to defend it. It's totally okay to give up the tower since it is quite likely you will die trying to defend against 3 or more enemies. If you die, the tower will still be going down. You might still be able to defend against 2 enemies, but do assess the situation, such as whether ultimates are available, how fed you and the enemies are, and if you're able to escape if the situation turns sour. This will come with experience playing in the lane and with your heroes. So don't worry if you're unsure about or are new to playing EXP. Just give the tower and don't feed. If you're in a disadvantaged lane, meaning you're losing or have lost to your enemy laner, just remain calm and don't feed. He might be constantly cutting your wave and forcing you to be stuck in your lane, while he's pressuring your other teammates. Your only option at this point is to try to catch up in wave management and if possible, force him to look your way and go back to his lane to defend as often as possible. The locations of the second and third turtles of the game are randomly selected, so they may be on either your side of the map or on the other side. Either way, only join these fights if you were able to lane cut before joining the fight. Otherwise, it's typically a better idea to protect your tower and not let the enemy laner push it down. For the turtle fights, the same advice applies as earlier. Zone the enemy jungler as much as you can and try to stop him from casting his retry when the turtle is low HP. From 5 minutes on until the end of the game, teams will begin to group up more, and there are no more dedicated lanes for you and the gold laner to be in. At this point, you should just go to the lane which the gold laner is not at, so you can balance the minions waves on the map. Yes, the EXP laner is usually the wave manager of the team, in that you're the one that ensures that your towers are not heavily pressured by minion waves. Unless the gold laner has signaled that he wants the minion waves in a lane, you should be the ones clearing them. As always, keep an eye on the map and do not venture too deep into a lane to wave clear. You should only clear deep in a lane if you've ensured that it's safe to do so. When your lanes are not pressured or you have already cleared the waves, you should either be near your team to help in any team fights, or you can look for split push opportunities and take down towers. Now, I know most of the guide so far is all about lane management and minions and waves. Here comes the fun part for EXP laners, which is large team fights. In a large team fight, an EXP laner has one of the most exciting roles to play, which is to zone, harass, and potentially kill priority targets, which are typically the enemy backline gold and mid laners. You are literally the commando of the team as your aim is to jump on those squishies and try to take them out if you can. Sometimes you'll have to jump into 2 or 3 enemies alone and dish out as much CC and damage as you can. Your main aim is to create as much havoc in the enemy backline as possible to break their formation, and draw attention to you in order to create space for your team to push forward. There is no exact method to do this, so it really depends on experience and the game situation. EXP lane heroes will usually have a way to do this, such as Yu Zhong's ult, Lapu Lapu's ult, or Terizla's ult. I like to circle around enemies and position myself in areas where I can cut off their escape routes. This is typically known as a pincer movement, where we squeeze the enemy's formation so that me and my team can collapse on them. But this can be risky, as you may be alone doing this, and enemies may be able to ambush you while you get in position. While this is usually the case, sometimes you may be forced into a protective role where you will need to be the protector of your team instead. This can happen if you're the only tanky hero on your team. For example, if your team's roamer is an assassin hero such as Natalia or Kadita, who is focused on assassinating the backline, you may need to perform a support role to defend and peel for your team's backline instead. The job of zoning and killing the enemy backline will now fall on your team's assassin roamer instead. It can also happen if your team's roamer is an excellent initiator such as Atlas or Kufra. When they jump ahead and initiate, you may be required to keep your backline safe from a diving enemy EXP laner or assassin. Keeping your backline alive and healthy is as important as trying to kill the enemies. Identifying what you're supposed to be doing in different situations is one of the key hallmarks that defines a great EXP laner and just a great Mobile Legends player in general. Now, during large teamfights for the Lord, this will differ a bit from teamfights without the Lord, especially if you're the only CC in your team. In general, try to zone out the enemies from approaching the Lord, especially the enemy jungler. Similar to the turtle, if you have a CC skill, try to save it for stopping the enemy jungler from casting his retry when the Lord is low. But don't be afraid to use it if you find a great initiation opportunity when it presents itself. Lord contests can easily lead to an enemy wipeout if you make the right move and your team follows up with you. As for items, emblems, and battle spells, I would recommend joining my Discord server for these discussions, as builds typically change from patch to patch, and you may be watching this video weeks or even months after it was published. The link to my Discord server can be found in the description down below. Just remember, as an EXP laner, you hold a key position in your team. You may have to do a lot of the dirty work, such as clearing waves and being the meat shield for your team, but these are essential to winning a match. It is a highly underappreciated role, but it can be highly impactful and rewarding if you play it right. I hope the information and tips has helped to elevate your EXP lane gameplay. Don't forget to leave a like and share the video with your friends if you found it useful. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.